Hello and welcome to this Figma tutorial where we'll be creating an interactive drop-down menu. So in this video, we'll be creating 4 different states of our drop-down menu. And next, we'll be using the prototype tool to connect all the variants to create an interactive drop-down menu like this. So if we hover over our menu button, we see a list item appear. Then if we hover to item 1, we see another list pair. So this is a multi-level drop-down menu. If we take back our mouse out of the drop-down menu space, we'll be back to its default states. All right, let's get started. Before we jump into this tutorial, let me tell you about Master UI Plus. It's the ultimate Figma design system with over 200 interactive components. You can create amazing user interfaces in no time. Just drag and drop to get fully interactive components in your prototypes. And the best part, you can get 40% off if you click the link in the description. All right, let's get back to our tutorial. Start by creating new design file and rename it to drop-down menu. Next, let's pick the frame tool and let's draw a rectangle. And this will be our toggle button of the drop-down menu. Rename it toggle. And let's add a border radius or a corner radius of 5 pixels and a drop shadow effect. Let's make the opacity at 7%. All right. Next, let's pick the text tool and let's type in menu button, center it horizontal and vertical inside the frame, and let's change our font face to Roboto and the font width will be bold, center it again and text center. All right, now let me change the color to a blue. All right, next let's pick an icon. Let's go to the resource plugins, Iconify, and hit run, and we are going to pick an arrow icon. So all right, let's pick this icon, click and drag, and let's drag it inside the frame, select and center everything. All right, next change the color to the same blue of our text. All right, and maybe let's decrease the size to 16 pixels and center vertical, select the thing. Now let's pick the toggle frame and let's transform it to auto layout. Let's add some spacing. Let's add 8 pixels of spacing. All right, zoom back. Now let's go and create the drop-down menu. Pick again the frame and draw a box of about 200 pixels of width and 150 of height. All right, again, let's give it a corner radius of 5 pixels and a drop shadow 7 pixel opacity of the color, and let's rename it to drop down. All right, now let's pick the text tool and let's type in item 1, align to the left. All right, let's maybe decrease the width to the same of our button, 130 pixels, 135, 135 pixels. All right, now let's keep that, and then let's duplicate this item 3 times, Command C and Command V to duplicate, and let's do it 3 times. All right, and let's change text content from item 1 to item 4. And now let's go back to our Iconify plugin and let's pick an arrow and let's pick the first one, click and drag and change its size to 16 pixels, and let's align it beside item 1. All right, now let's create a new frame around item 1 and the arrow. All right, so our frame will contain our item and arrow. All right, that's great. Let's move that a bit to the top. And let's increase the spacing, 20, and move that. All right, let's rename this item 1. And then let's duplicate this drop down, Command C and Command V, so we can create a second level drop down menu. So for the first one, let's remove this arrow, and also we don't need item 1. Let's move that to the top and change the head, and let's change the text to item 1, 2, and 3. All right, let's rename this second underscore drop down. All right, now let's select all those frames and let's create a component, and from this component let's create another variant. All right, let's change the size of the component frame and align our variants horizontally. All right, for the first one, let's hide the drop down menu and the second level drop down, and this will be our default states. Let's resize to fit, and then let's go to the component, rename it to drop down menu. In the properties, let's select and let's rename it to states, and this will be close and this will be enabled. And then let's change the background color of our enabled variant. So from white, let's change it to a lighter blue. All right, and then let's rotate our icon of about minus 90 degree. Next, let's create a new variant, and this will be hover list item, and then let's hide this one. All right, so when we click in the default state, drop down menu will appear, and then when we hover over this, a second level drop down will appear. All right, now let's select our frame and go to our prototype tab, and let's connect all those variants to create a dynamic drop down menu. So with our first closed step, let's go to our enabled state and let's leave it at on click and pick smart animate. Next, let's go here on our first item and let's connect it with the third variant, and let's say while hovering and smart animate. Now let's create this. So we will create a mouse leaf effect. So once we click on this button, it will appear this, and once we click on this item, we'll see this third or second level drop down menu. But once we leave our mouse, we'll be back to this state. So let's connect this to the first one, and let's select mouse leaf and smart animate. And then also, once we leave this block, we'll go back to the default state, mouse leaf. And also, if we are in this state, if we click in this button, we'll go back to the default state. All right, again with this button, go back to default state. Now let's remove this. Let's create a new frame. Let's go to assets and drag our menu and change the color of my frame a gray color so we can see the contrast of our button. Now let's hit the play button to see a preview of our drop down menu component in action. All right, if we click, our drop down will appear. All right, we have a problem. Let's go back and back to prototype. Let's remove this mouse leaf. Let's go back, select, and all right, everything is working. Great. Go and click again. Thanks for joining me for this tutorial. You can find the download link to the exercise file of this tutorial in the description down below. And if you are looking for more interactive components, then you should check out Master UI Plus. Everything you need will be at your fingertips when it comes to interactive components, and this will make your design process faster and more efficient. And one last thing, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next video.